is another success story time on my channel. As you guys know, I don't do too many success stories of my clients or friends or people that had, but sometimes I do like to involve you in my personal experiences just to give you inspiration. So when it comes down to manifesting the reality that you want and talking about inspiration, remember that I have Patreon down below for extra content. I am going to talk about inspirational lives and following your intuition and so much more this week. Join our Patreon down below. It's an amazing community. And if you guys are interested in DM coaching with me, it's going to shut down due to the reason of this video. I'm going to explain in a second at the end of February, and then I'm officially, like for real, not changing my mind. I am going to close down my Etsy shop, my DM coaching, everything that it's like private service, including the e-courses, are not going to be there anymore. I'm only going to focus on content creation. So if you ever feel the need to have a coaching with me or to purchase my courses, this is the month to do it. They're not going to be available anymore for a very long time, possibly. I don't even know, for a very long time though. Anyway, now let's get started with the video. Hello everybody, by the way, my name is Neyah. You can read it down below. So, how I manifested my pregnancy fast, easy, and effortless, and especially successful. I know so many of you are probably watching this video and be like, what the heck? Because so many of you guys think that I'm 23 years old. I know, thank you. So many of you guys think I'm like 25. I'm not. So you probably are wondering, like, of course it's going to be easy for you to give birth or to be pregnant. You're so young. And I'm like, not really. Actually, I'm not in my 20s anymore. It's been a while that I'm not in my 20s, and I'm actually eating more towards the 35 years old, but let's not focus too much on that because we're not manifesting to look older. We're manifesting to look younger, and it is very possible. So obviously, if you know anything about biology, now this doesn't have to be a limiting belief, and I'm going to explain you why, because it does not matter what people say. But according to, biology and what we know that for women, obviously becoming pregnant after 30, but especially after 35 or from when you're hitting that stage, can become more difficult. And actually, I didn't have the best circumstances, meaning best programs in my mind, because my mom gave birth to me when she was way younger. And in general, I had this conception that I heard so many stories of women really struggle, or just in general having to try a little bit harder when it came down to pregnancy and conception when they were in their 30s. Now, obviously, it's not impossible at all. You can manifest it out. I'm a testimony of that. So this is only belief system at the end of the day. That's what I learned from my experience. But just to give you the background, I was hearing a lot of horror stories about pregnancy because they are everywhere online, on TikTok as well. I was hearing that some couple had to try for a year before giving birth. I was hearing about a lot of miscarriages, and my heart is with you if you ever struggle with that or you have experienced this. I was like, I did everything that I knew I shouldn't do, which is to read all the horror stories everywhere around the internet. And I see that this is a tendency for many of us. The internet is a great experience for all of us. We can gather so many informations, but unfortunately, sometimes the information, especially around pregnancy, is surrounded by fear, by horror stories, and by really scary, even not just talking about childbirth, but talking about the first trimester and the vomiting and the nausea and all the bad things that women experience. Is like these bad stories are everywhere. But so this is where I was started. And I was freaking out, as anyone would, right? Anyone would reading the story. That's the circumstances where I was. And plus, I'm more around my 35. I'm basically 33 now. And I'm moving towards, 35 years old. Not yet, but moving towards that age. So here was the thing. I started to reading all this horror story and fell in a very negative spiral about pregnancy in general. And I started to feel very much in fear. So that was my actual first reaction. Then I snapped back because I knew better. And what I knew better was the law, was the fact that I had control over my circumstances, I had control over my thoughts, and I could manifest my own reality. Now, if you want to manifest pregnancy or anything that you want in your life, you know that that is the step that you need to take. It's that acknowledgement that you can do anything and you don't have to pay attention to your present circumstances. Believe it or not, hard to believe it as it is, that nothing is impossible, and especially you don't have to hear the stories of other people or the very circumstances that are presented to you or even online, but your focus does create your own reality. Quantum physics teaches that to a certain extent as well, and so we should only focus on those positive aspects and those positive stories. So when I went back to this, and I forgot to give the disclaimer. Sometimes I get attacked by people who don't want children, they're child-free, or women who are extremely feminist for my personal decision. I kid you not, you guys, it has happened. This video is not for saying that you should have children. This video is not for saying that every woman should have children. This video, it's not against child-free people. I love you guys. It's a personal choice. Just be happy with whatever you choose. That's it. So that's the tiny disclaimer I had to do. I had to do it before the video. Anyway, let's move on to the story. So realizing that you can do anything. I heard stories of people as well when I started to focus more positively. I heard stories of people that the doctor told them you could never have children, it's impossible for you, and then they had even twins. So realizing that your reality and your circumstances and even the way that your body reacts is really up to you and up to your thoughts. In fact, I wanted to make a video about epigenetics, which is really brilliantly explained by Bruce Lipton. If you don't know who it is, Google him. He's an amazing character here online that talks about the law, and a scientist as well, a biologist if I'm correct. And epigenetic is a branch of science that talks about how our genes can change according to our thoughts and emotion. So really nothing is impossible. Definitely food for thoughts for another video. So I started to feed my mind with different content, with different information that was supporting the fact that indeed pregnancy was easy. It was going to be easy for me, and that there was nothing I shouldn't even try. It was already happening. So after this first acknowledgement and remembering that I know better and I know the law, never feel guilty if you feel that you're reverting back to old program. Hey, I know tons about the law and still I make mistakes these days. So no one is perfect. Don't feel shame whatsoever. Just know that when you realize, hey, I'm going back to my old program or I'm paying too much attention to my circumstances, you just have to bring yourself back to awareness. So that's what I did. I brought myself back to awareness. And this was even before I was trying to be pregnant, because I never even tried really. So that's the real story. So essentially, what happened, obviously, you know, we had the conversation with my fiance. He wanted to have children and we thought, okay, yeah, it's definitely gonna happen at some point. But I said to him, I want to go with the flow. I don't want to, you know, program anything. It has to happen like destiny, you know, it just has to be, you know, without trying, because I was manifesting it for me. It was easy, fast, and effortless without even trying. And that's exactly, I follow my intuition in that case. And I remember vividly that I thought, okay, I'm gonna take my own sweet time. It's gonna take like a year or two before I'm pregnant. But because I knew better and I knew about the law, what I was doing in the 2 weeks prior to discovering that I was pregnant, I basically essentially said to myself, well, how would I feel, act, and behave if I were pregnant? Maybe I would do prenatal yoga. And so I started to do an exercise like I was pregnant. In this exercise that you can find on Gaia.com, by the way, not sponsored, but that's the one that I did, prenatal yoga from Gaia.com, believe it or not. And this woman in the prenatal exercise was chanting a mantra non-stop for 45 minutes of exercise, and she was constantly saying, touch your womb, and saying, my growing baby inside my womb is healthy. It was something like, I am nurturing my body as my body is nurturing my baby, something like that. It was like a chanting mantra where she was repeating this affirmation for 45 minutes while doing the exercise. So I was like, oh, this is gonna work. I'm gonna get pregnant right now, because this is just such a repetition. Like, for 45 minutes, this woman is stressing me out about this affirmation that is definitely gonna work. And I started to do this prenatal exercise, and that's all I did. So every morning for like a week, I guess, I started to do this prenatal exercise, yoga exercise, 45 minutes, just as if I had the belly and I had a baby in my womb. I didn't visualize, I didn't affirm for it during the day. That's the only thing I did. Then, obviously, life goes on between these 2 weeks, and we never really were trying. So without getting too graphic on YouTube, imagine what it means. Okay, we weren't using protection, but we weren't even really trying. So I'm sure you understand the drill. So with that being said, I wasn't really, paying too much attention on the fact that very soon I was going to get pregnant. Like, I was just doing this exercise, and I was thinking as the person that was already pregnant. I was chilling, I wasn't worried, I wasn't checking the 3D, I wasn't doing ovulation things. I was like, it's gonna happen, it's just done. It is done, which is what I always do right now for all my manifestation. It's that faith, knowing that it's done, that persistence, everything that and going with the flow as well. Everything that I talk in all my videos for future reference. If you are new subscribers, you can go ahead and watch my older videos. Little behold, did I know that in that week, those 2 weeks max that I did this prenatal yoga exercises, my period didn't come, and my fiance was out of town for work. I was just alone, and I had a dream. By the way, I told the same story on my Patreon. I had a dream, I had a dream before doing the test, and I had a dream where the test was positive. So because I know I'm psychic, I knew already that the test was going to be positive. So as soon as I had some days of delay of my period, I didn't even wait. I just knew I had to go and buy that test as I saw it in my dream. And I'm going to make a different videos, by the way, about the power of dreams as alternative field of realities, and how much dreams do make you enter manifestation most of the time. We need to make a different video about it. Comment down below to let me know if you know it. Anyhow, I had this dream. I was sure, get delayed in my period, go to the pharmacy store, and everything was so positive. Like, even that day, everything was so uplifting. I go to the pharmacy store when I was in London, and this sweet lady, she gives me the test. She was like, hey, let me know if it's if it's positive. Hopefully it's gonna be, finger crossed. It's just like, I remember this lady, so freaking sweet. It was such a good morning. So I go back, do the test, boom, pregnant. I just freaking knew it. It was just like, I knew it was done, and I knew it in the moment that I was doing those affirmations, doing the prenatal exercises. And that was the story. Now, remember at the beginning of the story when I told you that I had all these negative experience and horror stories about the first trimester and nausea and all the jazz that you hear? I didn't have anything. At some point, now I'm in my second trimester, I was so worried of gaining weight. I was so worried about nausea or feeling sick or whatnot, changing taste, smell, all the stuff that you hear. I was so freaking worried, and then turns out that I started affirming, my pregnancy is fine, everything is good, everything is fine, this is gonna be easy. That's the only thing that I have affirmed when I was under the shower, as you watched in my video about my morning, my routine for manifestation. And do you know what happened? I was so worried that this baby wasn't even alive, because I literally didn't feel anything. I had nausea, by the way, in the second trimester last week, just because of prenatal vitamins that were wrong for me. But in the first trimester, I was fine. I never ever vomited. I never had a problem. I didn't even put that much weight up until so far. I'm doing great. it's just all good, you know, according to the doctor, everything is fine. I didn't change smell. I didn't change taste. Nothing. The same, to the point where I was like worried, is she alive? It's like, am I still pregnant or what? Because I just didn't have any symptoms. Zero. The only slight symptom that my fiance will say is not a slight symptom, but the only slight symptom that I had was in the first week of pregnancy. I had swing moods, so I was a little bit up and down. But if you know me, you would probably know that that's something that sometimes just happens to me, but that was it. It wasn't really a big deal. Definitely nothing scary as I was reading before, and that for me confirmed that for the majority of times we are manifesting our body reaction. That's what I believe. You don't have to if you don't want to, but many people spread fear for whatever they have in their mind, and I'm sorry for those experiences, of course, but you shouldn't listen to other people. You just shouldn't listen. You just have to affirm, if you want to be pregnant, that you are already pregnant, everything is going fine, your pregnancy is going to be smooth, and this is going to be easy, fast in a way, and effortless. If you're just going to saturate your mind with this affirmation, and by the way, I didn't believe them. I didn't believe them after all the horror stories that I read. It's going to happen. It's bound to happen. That's how it works. Your thoughts create. And that's my story so far. Now, obviously, now I'm in the second trimester, so I feel even better. I feel full of energy. Today I had the visit. Everything is fine. Everything is great. So I just wanted to finally share it out there. And this is the reason why I am closing my Etsy shop and stuff, because I want to enjoy my pregnancy and the app and my child when she's going to be born. By the way, she's a female. Yes, I knew. My fiance actually knew. I didn't care. I didn't manifest the sex. That's something you can do. You can manifest even the gender. I never cared because I didn't care whether it was a female or a boy. I was happy either way. But my fiance said it's going to be a girl, and he predicted it correctly. So we are very happy with that. I'm super happy about that too. But I would have been happy even if it was a boy. So I really don't care about gender. So that's it. So just to recoup and give you a little bit of inspiration, do you see how easy all of this was? And what have I done really to manifest? And if you really go back to hear my stories about how I manifested my fiance, my engagement, the money, the YouTube career, everything that I did, how did I do it? Not giving up on the bigger picture of what I wanted. I knew what I wanted, generally speaking, and I didn't believe when I was affirming for it or when I was doing any sort of techniques. I just did it anyway, and I started becoming self-concept, identity. I started becoming the person that felt, thought, but more than felt, thought, as I already had what I wanted. So for example, in the case of pregnancy, even though I had bad belief system and programming, even though I read all the horror stories, I decided proactively not to care and not to accept them as my reality. I decided proactively not to give in to fear, which is what you should do as well, regardless of what you're manifesting. Regardless of your age, you shouldn't care what people say or how much have you tried in the past. You are now going to identify as the person that is already pregnant, or actually that is already having the child, which is what Neville Goddard will suggest, to go even beyond the pregnancy and to go directly to the end and seeing your healthy baby next to you or in your arms, and to do some sort of activities that will help you or will help your subconscious mind believing that what you are affirming is actually coming true, is already true. Not you don't have to consciously believe it, but your subconscious mind, by something simple such as doing a prenatal yoga or taking even prenatal vitamins, anything simple like that, will register the action and will start to produce the outcome of that action, what you want, because you're living as the future version of yourself. So again, you don't have to believe in your affirmation consciously at all. You just have to repeat them. But the action in and of itself allows the subconscious mind to record a new pattern, a new action, and therefore believe indeed she's pregnant, this is actually happening. And it could be something simple. The yoga, the prenatal yoga, prenatal exercise, taking prenatal vitamins, or even just like a little shopping of little clothes for your baby, whatever it is. So this is how I manifested, again, another thing in an easy and effortless effortless way. And again, don't think about the horror stories. Don't think about the symptoms. I had 0 symptoms. Zero. Everything's fine. It was pretty smooth ride. I'm not even the only story that is like this. There are many women who don't have symptoms that have smooth rides and rides and everything is fine. So again, your focus creates, you guys. Focus on the stories that are helping out your manifestation and your narrative. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how long you've tried. I don't care whatever has happened in the past. If you identify as the future version of yourself, that future will be brought into your present in a fast and easy way. Let me know your thoughts. But yeah, this is all that I really wanted to say. I understand that I have this free-flowing, I speak really fast kind of style, but I hope you got the drill of my success stories. Success story. I'm really happy, and I feel like now what else do I have to manifest once more to prove into your eyes? Like, I have been one of those stories where I literally, since the beginning of this channel, I manifested in front of your eyes everything that I wanted in front of your eyes. You saw me without followers, you saw me without views, and I did it. You saw me without boyfriend, without fiance, and I did it. I got it. You saw me without money, for those of you who followed me for a long time, and now I got it. You saw all of it, and you saw the development of what it is, how much important it is to just pay attention to what you're thinking. That's all I ever did at the end of the day, and not giving up. Paying attention to what you're thinking, persistence, going with the flow, not controlling, knowing that it's done. That's the main thing. You saw the results of what it is to have this lifestyle. And this is not something special to me or to anyone else. This is something that we all have inside of us and we can do. So if you want to manifest pregnancy, it's already done. You are already pregnant, and this is how you should think, or for anything else. So I hope you enjoyed my success stories and you have a little bit of background of the reason why I'm closing my Etsy shop and DM coaching. Like I said, all the links are down below. I'll see you very soon as well on Patreon and on this channel. I love you guys. Can't wait to make more videos. Bye!